Folks, welcome inside the Parisi Palace, high above 3773 East Broadway. This is the Jake Feinberg Show, coming to you on Power Talk. Thank you so much for making us part of your day today. And my journey continues along, as everybody's does, in their own unique way during this unprecedented time when live domestic touring music has basically come to a halt for the last 18 months or so. And so when I saw arguably my favorite cover band was going to go back on tour for a brief run, I recognized that it was very important for me to go and not just support my people, but also heal from the vibration, the collective vibration of the music. And so I wound up in Ojai to see Grateful Shred, and the band had a couple of different cats in the band, but it absolutely blew me away. How it almost didn't feel like they missed a beat. I mean, obviously people were playing different parts and singing. You had some people that were singing. It was just the most healing experience. And what was so beautiful is just the idea of turning around and seeing just throngs of people ultimately having fun. I mean, our divine right is happiness in this lifetime. And my guest today is somebody who brings a lot of love to a lot of people through his work and his art. And he's also a very humble cat, considering the amount of incredible work that he's already done in his career. And it's really interesting during this time how a lot of creative, authentic musicians are staying mentally focused to stay on the path that they're on, considering the future as it relates to live healing music is so uncertain, based on the fact that you could still take all the precautions necessary and still wind up with this coronavirus. Omar Velasco, welcome to the Jake Feinberg Show.
Thanks so much. Nice to be here.
Yeah, man, it's great to have you. I just can you give a little bit of an update on your physical and mental condition? I know that I think it's not really, I don't know if shock is the right word based on what we've been through as a collective people, but I just wonder how high you were from the music, and then how shocked you were when everybody got, or at least a lot of people got infected.
Yeah. We were all very, very high from the music. I mean, it was, it had been something that we had all been sort of waiting for a long time. And the shows themselves were above my expectations. And, anyways, and, yeah, I mean, we were just having a ball, to be honest with you, and at least from my mind, it felt right and safe, and never did it cross my mind that we'd be in danger of getting ill or endangering others. But I suppose it's always a possibility. It turns out it was a possibility, and I don't know how far deep into it I want to get, but I would just say that once I found out that I had it, I do have a tendency to just take things as they come, and I didn't get super overwhelmed in terms of me being ill. I didn't feel too much fear regarding the sickness itself. I felt able to take care of myself and et cetera, and had the resources I needed, and my family as well. But it was a shock in terms of, like, what that meant for our, our job.
I know.
It's kind of like, oh, we're all ready to go, and fun and doing what you love is one thing, but putting food on the table for families is very real, and if this puts a halt on the playing, then so be it. But it would suck.
Well, okay. First of all, I mean, I want to be clear. I mean, like, I'm not, this is just an opinion. There's no right answer or wrong answer, but I just sort of feel like, obviously, I'm biased because I love Grateful Shred. I mean, the music is folkloric. I think that you guys are all West Coast cats. Most of the Grateful Dead cover bands are all East Coast cats, and that doesn't really mean they're bad. They're just there's just a vibe coming off Shred that's so awesome. And the new lineup, I was not skeptical, but I love Sam and Clay. But you guys I'm like, this is the totally new era. And like, yeah, I mean, they're like, those guys are freaking. I love them till the end. But just like, I'm like, this is just like a comfortable slipper, like you and Tyler filling in, and it was like a beautiful like group. And I just wonder about how you believe. My feeling is this: I went to that one show. It was outdoors. Okay, I mean, regardless, I don't know how everybody got it, but the point is that I just feel at a certain point, Omar, like, for live music, like, don't you think part of you feels? I feel this way. I'm vaccinated. I know that when I go into an event, I can't control anybody else and what they do. I would hope that if they're not vaccinated, that they'd be sincere enough to wear a mask, or at least can tell people that they're not, so that, people at least are aware of it. But that being said, like everything in life, there's a risk. And I just feel like, don't you think there's comes a point when we're going to have to learn to live with this thing regardless? I mean, this is not going to go away for years. And the idea that like somehow, I just want you to talk about the idea of saying, because from a patron's point of view, as a journalist, for somebody who needs this for healing, like, I'm just sort of like, okay, maybe I'm not going to put myself in a position in a little bandbox enclosed room with no ventilation. That's my choice. But I don't think that means that we have to shut down everything. And I feel like that's the frustration, is like, okay, well, this happened, but that doesn't mean it has to stop again, because we have to learn to live with this thing.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, things, they change so rapidly. I have a hard time, especially right now. I understood the risks on a sort of intellectual level, but I never expected to get the virus.
Really? Okay.
I don't know many people that do.
Yeah.
I know I didn't. But at this moment, I went through. I got sick. It hasn't been fun. But I've been okay, and but I will say that there's a lot of confusion. There's a lot of confusion. There's not a lot of clear information out there. Mm-hmm. There's anything you want to know, any narrative you want to go down, you can sort of find your way down, which means that nothing is like, and things change from day to day. So, including variants and whatnot. So, trying to parse the things that I've experienced, that I've seen, that I know, and like be safe and all these things. But it's a lot of information, and very confusing. I do think that we have to learn how to live with this thing for the foreseeable future. And I am also of the mind that that we have to find ways to continue to play, honestly. And
absolutely, man. You don't understand.
maybe that's
yeah. Go ahead.
yeah, no, like an emphasis on outdoors things, on, you know, I don't, like I said, I don't know what the right way to do this is, but I don't think that just, you know, closing ourselves down again is going to be good for anything or anyone.
It's not. I mean, anyway, this is, what was revelatory to me, man. First of all, and I just really I lost my best friend who was 10 years older than me, and my older daughter, his daughter, they were best friends, and he was like a spirit brother to me. And he died at the beginning of the pandemic. And we'll never know for sure if he had COVID.
So sorry.
Yeah. I mean, it hit me home directly, and so I know that this is, and I'm not trying to make light of the virus. I know it's completely unpredictable, and I know that, like you said, there's so many rabbit holes that you can go down. That the confusion reigns. It's just none of the answers that you or I want are going to be known for years. Like, it's just, that's the way it is. Like, it's,
Yeah.
I mean, like, it's not like we live in this time of like instantaneous information when it comes to this kind of stuff. I mean, it's unfortunate, but that being said, like I was going to say, outdoor, like the new motto should be outdoor sheds for Grateful Shred, like, no more indoor, like just outdoor gigs, like even in the park, but
Yeah, like that.
like how just going back, I mean, again, everyone learns from these things, but just in general, can you talk about, I mean, I had not seen you play live before. I was completely blown away, not just like with your, like what you were saying in your solos and things, like not repeating things and going on for quite a while and making it really entertaining, but like your tone was like straight out of the early 80s Garcia. I mean, it just sounded exactly, it was like not in a cheesy way. Like, it was just a perfect freaking thing. And I loved like Sam and Clay because they didn't necessarily sound like Garcia. They had their own beautiful sound. Sam did a little bit, but it was just so beautiful. But I just wonder, like, over the last 18 months, like, how have you tried to stay inspired? I know a lot of cats that put the instrument away and took a break, did other things. How have you continued to stay inspired, short of this last four-day run with Shred? I mean, how did you get through and look towards the light throughout the whole time?
Yeah. Wow, that's I'll try to condense.
Yeah, do your best.
A little bit, and I just want to say, in advance.
Yes.
Forgive me if I'm a little bit jumbled because the brain fog thing is real. So I'll do my best.
Okay. No. First of all, I want to tell you, I can tell that I just want to say you're completely like understand, like everything's going well. So take your time when you're and this is what I'm saying is like this is the real thing. And so, but you're doing great. You just go where you want to go.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, the main thing is that I have been fortunate enough, and I really emphasize that because the saving grace for me over the last, however long, is that I basically have a little studio in the back in our house, a converted garage, and I have been able to continue to work in some form or fashion back there throughout the pandemic and throughout the lockdowns and stuff. And while I certainly have missed playing live, some other things have really taken the forefront, and some of those have been larger questions about like life and what matters. And I know a lot of people were exposed to thoughts like, hey, living in the city here, I'm trying to get groceries at the grocery store. There's a huge line, and when I get in there, most of the shelves are empty. Oh my God, like, this is so fragile. I know nothing about supply chains. I know nothing about
right.
how to grow food. This is insanely vulnerable, our system.
Totally.
I think about this for a second, and it's no coincidence. A lot of people have gotten into gardening and stuff like that. And granted, it's very much like a hobby, but I think it comes from a real place of like, oh my God, like, I'm so completely disconnected from the knowledge of like how I would take care of myself and my family if I didn't have, Amazon deliver some shit to my doorstep. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And that's a scary. That was a shocker for me. Like, that visceral, like, wow, like, we are hanging on by a thread here.
By a thread.
That really, by a thread. Yeah, that really struck me. Like, oh my God, like, So, anyways, I started reading a lot more, getting into all these, like, the permaculture stuff and all that stuff. And I ended up getting a little job with a fruit tree care company that's really cool here in town that does really awesome work with taking care of people's fruit trees and learning about that. So that kind of kept me in some respects, not losing my mind. And then I had my studio, and I was just making, honestly, I got really into mixing. It started to really fascinate me, and it really still does. I feel like I'm really only at the very tip of the iceberg of an art form that is so deep and so nuanced, and made a couple records with different friends, and just tinkering in the studio. I reoriented my studio about 3 times during the last few months.
When you say mixing, what do you mean by that? Like mixing live people, or just taking different loops, or what? Like what do you mean by that?
Like mixing records. So, like, usually how it works is, you do all the tracking. You record all the different parts, and then once that's all done, more or less, it's like, what would be a good analogy? It's like, I can't think of one, but it's like making sure that everything is balanced and interacting. All the elements are interacting with each other, so that it sounds like a record. And for context, like, a top mixer will get many thousands of dollars for a mix, because it can be the difference between a record that sounds like whatever and a record that sounds like a hit or whatever. So it's just a different part of the record making process.
Well, no, I mean, I'm very interested. I just wonder about, I'm just going to throw a few things at you, and then you can riff on it any way you want. I mean, to me, the thing that I'm sort of stuck in this time warp from before I was born, which is like the early 70s, I don't think you could really find a bad record of any genre in like from 73. I mean, it was just like the most insane year of music. And when you think
Oh
about,
yeah.
and what
Yeah.
and I've interviewed Bruce Botnick, and I've interviewed a lot of engineers and people that, and what they've kind of broken down for me is that, now again, this is with all people in a room, not being going on a computer and creating instruments and then mixing it, but like the idea, like in that time of going in, the rhythms, the whole band would be hitting live. There might be one or two overdubs, but
Yeah.
because there was so much work at that time, there was not a lot of perseveration over what you just talked about this idea of the difference between being or being a hit. It was done
Yeah.
and done, and then also like, so I guess my question is for you, like in a situation when you are recording a band, uh, how do you mic the room? I'm always curious about that. That to me is the biggest difference in what I hear today in modern recorded music. Is I don't hear a lot of
Yeah.
space in the music, and I think some of that has to do with, like for instance, on a drum kit, every drum now is mic'd. When in the past you'd have like, maybe
Yeah.
a right and left overhead, maybe one for the kick. I love leakage. So where do you come down on all that? I mean, how do you? Because
Right.
in my mind, if some recording that I love probably wouldn't be acceptable in today's modern recording technique. But how do you try to split the difference between all the technology that we have versus the magic of boom, done, move on?
Yeah, that's a great question. Well, I think like the rest of my personality, I think I tend to be pretty like diplomatic about these things, in that I definitely believe that for all intents and purposes, the sort of golden era of recorded music, and in some ways American culture, but let's just leave it with recorded music, was that era that you're talking about.
Totally.
Early, mid, just technologically, things just happened, and it, to my ears at least, the sonic quality matched with the artistry in a just kind of a perfect way.
Absolutely, dude. It was like yeah. Go ahead.
Well, and that being said, I also believe that it's a mistake to assume that that new things can't be discovered, that the best is in the past, and that the best we can do is to try and replicate that era. I think there's a big difference between being inspired by that and being derivative of it. So I really try and be, I've got my whatever, like, old equipment that's kind of breaking down, that I'm considering selling, that I love, that does its thing and has its mojo. And I also listen to modern recordings, many of which I do feel are sterile and lacking in spirit, but some of which are honestly floor me with how incredible they are, and their own type of artistry that has, just a modern take on it, for lack of a better word. And so I guess I try to incorporate both those things. Like an example is like we did a record in here with my band, Amo, and it was in the middle of the pandemic, and we were kind of there's not a lot going on. There wasn't a whole lot of like intention and or there was just a lot of stratification for many reasons, and I suggested that we get together at my place. It's a very small place, so I had everyone in here for 3 days, and the nature of this band is very, very improvisational. So I knew that I wasn't going to really get a whole lot of like workshopping of ideas. I knew that it was probably going to be more fun for everyone to just, let it rip and go on to the next thing. So that sort of informed the way that I would record it. So I isolated things as like my best I could, in order for us to be able to use the material and manipulate it later. So that worked out really well, and I'm finishing a record right now that's really, really cool. That would have been very, very difficult to achieve had there been a lot of bleed. Nevertheless, it's all spontaneous and it's all happened that's in the moment, with overdubs later, but the core of it is just, it was all. So that's kind of what I'm getting at, is that like, I try not to get too attached to like purist.
No, I think you said it best. You take the derivatives of what you borrow from that immaculate time and turn it into something that is legitimate in the modern era. I mean, this band, Amo, do you guys, how not necessarily the album itself, but I mean in your live shows, is it all instrumental music, and often and do you ever play the same song the same way once?
Oh yeah, no, it's very song based, and we do have a singer, and I sing some as well, and actually everyone kind of sings, but yeah, it's very song oriented. Everyone, it's like there's definitely like a reverence for the song.
Yes.
That we all enjoy and we dig, but the way the band started was like we would play these shows and kind of mostly would just make shit up, on the fly, and that
I love it.
That's kind of it kind of, and it was very dance oriented, so it was just as long as there was a good groove,
yeah, man, totally.
That's all that really mattered.
Freaking great.
As we progressed, we definitely like this. Our records are very, very song oriented. There's not a whole lot of fully free, or at least the appearance is that it's not fully free. But actually, most of what's, especially this last record, most of what's on there is totally improvised, even though it doesn't sound like it. So yeah, that's a very important element. It's like, and that's why I think playing with the shred for me is it just feels like home, because I don't really have the a stamina to not fuck around.
Yes.
Excuse my language.
Yes, no, it's fine. No, I dig it, man.
I don't have the attention span to just play parts all the time. That's So that's why yeah, it felt like a perfect fit.
Let me ask you a question though. Like when you talk about everything
Yeah.
being improvised, but if it's, I mean, it doesn't sound like it is, but it is. That just comes from cohesion and trust of the band over years of work. Can you talk about the process of going for it? Not necessarily playing free music, but I mean, going for it improvisationally, but making it, but having it sound really delicious to the ear. I think, and see where you're not doing anything rote, or you're not playing written parts. That
Right.
comes from trust, right?
Yeah, that's. I think you're right. I think. Well, in this particular group, Amo, that is. There's some of the members have been playing together for, oh man, like 15 years or something. Not as that group, but just in different iterations. Been friends for a long time, and there is something that begins to happen where, and I don't think it's all sort of magic synchronistic. I do think that it's just the years of accumulated experience and taste and tendency, and at a certain point, I might have it somewhere in my psyche that at the end of this bar, the drummer's going to do. It's likely that the drummer's going to do this kind of fill, and then I just kind of do something on the guitar, like not consciously.
Oh, totally.
But you start to anticipate or kind of think of things in a similar way, just because of, like you said, trust and experience, and that it does feel like magic though when it does link up like that. It's like, whoa, what are the chances? Even though they might be.
No, because it's not, because you're not. It's like a cosmic. It's not. You say thinking, but you're not really logically thinking. It's more like feeling, anticipating, and going for it.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Because what I've noticed is that it's kind of hard. We were kind of getting into this a little bit in the green room, you and I.
Yeah.
And it's a little bit hard to articulate, but it's like, I'm not. I don't. The thing about like improvising to whatever capacity one can, because I can improvise it to a certain degree, but I'm not going to be able to improvise over like giant steps or some crazy jazz stuff.
Well, I haven't heard you in that. I don't know. You may be able to do that. I haven't heard you in that context yet.
I can tell you that I can't.
A guitar wouldn't really fit on that anyway. But yeah, no, I dig, man. I dig.
Yeah. But my point is that that's not where my focus has been.
Mm-hmm.
If I wanted to study jazz, and I could probably learn how to do that. But whatever capacity one can improvise, I think for me, like it takes on sort of more. It takes on another characteristic or another like dimension of spirit or something when I stop trying to make something happen, in terms of like I need to like push this rock up this hill.
Yeah.
And I just kind of realized that I'm actually going downhill, and all I have to do is let go of the rock, and it'll start rolling. And I just have to like trot behind it, and maybe keep it from rolling into the gutter or something. It's a bizarre feeling because it feels like being totally like, it's like exhilarating. It feels like you're out of control, but you can do no wrong in a way. When you're in that pocket, and it's the ultimate, for me, it's the ultimate musical experience. I mean, I'll say, I do enjoy like crafting a song. That's a different kind of experience, but there's a certain out of body exhilarating feeling when you get to a place where you just take your hands off the wheel and find out that the car's still going, and it's not gonna, and it's, and far from crashing, it's like doing crazy shit you never thought it could do.
Two questions. I need to ask you. Okay, so we just lost this incredible drummer who played on all the Peanuts albums with Vince Guaraldi, Jerry Granelli, and he said. Now I want to go back to this boulder going down the mountain analogy. So it's two questions. To me, when you're jogging behind it and just trying to keep it on course, you're not really, you've let go of self-interest or ego, and you are just in the moment playing off the band members. So you've kind of, if you don't have any self-interest, so to speak, or then you have nothing to lose. So you can do no wrong, like you said. The question is, why do you think, and this is kind of what we were talking about in the green room, was just, why is it so hard for people to go to the boulder? Is it because they're afraid to fail?
Well, I honestly, this is probably, this may sound like a bold claim, but I think it's because the same reason that people aren't enlightened, that none of us aren't quote unquote enlightened. It's because we can't let go. Yeah. We can't let go of our illusion of control. Yeah,
you're right.
If we let go, we feel like we'll die, and for prolonged periods of time, I think it's similar, and I think that a lot of people that play music, for on some level, know that if you stick with it, and put yourself in situations, that you might get a little taste of that, like when I hear about the jazz guys, basically trying to solve infinity through their music, and doing the heroin. It's like, what is heroin? It's like, I mean, I've never done it, but
no.
It seems to me like it's blowing up your ego, right?
Right.
It's destroying. So that's what everyone says. So, most of us don't have the rigorous self-discipline to take that on, and that's why I think. Yeah, most of us have such a hard time with it. We want it, but it's too scary. It's too much,
Right. It's just such a beautiful point.
Too much vertigo.
We have a game on this program called Name That Voice, and I don't expect you to know who this is, but it dovetails into what we've been riffing on. So take a listen, and we'll come back.
Okay.
When you improvise and you go into channeling, and you go into a certain kind of a trance, and you do try to not think and let the music take you and sustain a mood, and my years playing with McCoy Tyner taught me a lot about that too, about creating a feeling and sustaining it, you know. And playing with Paul also was always like that, and with Charlie Hayden and certain musicians that I've had a chance to play with in my lifetime, you know. I feel so blessed to have played a lot with Elvin Jones and Hank Jones also, you know. Different kinds of music, but it all had the same kind of channeling flow.
Omar, that was an interview I just did with saxophone player Joe Lovano, and really beautiful cat. And he was talking about Paul Motian, who was a great drummer with Keith Jarrett at a certain time, and they were playing. There's this period of time, if you're not hip to it, it's really interesting. Like 71, there's an album by Keith Jarrett called Morning Star, and it's like Charlie Hayden and Dewey Redman and Paul Motian, and they're like playing on tonalities, and they're creating music within the music, and they're not playing as an exercise, but more to create a feeling. And that was when I saw you, you know, out of everybody. Horn obviously is in the Intergalactic, and Mac is legendary cat. But I felt like you were always trying to keep the mood of the song together. That's kind of the most important thing. And I wanted you to talk a little bit to younger cats, especially about how you've tried, you know, no, it's an ongoing journey, but how you've learned to sort of channel the music and be a conduit for information coming through you from the heavens. I'll just preface it by saying that you talk about ego death before. A lot of cats that I've talked to, a lot of the older studio sharks, they talk about people being as they get older, they get very resentful. You know, they have more money than they know what to do with. They have all the gold records in the world, but the phone has stopped ringing, and they're bitter because they believed in their career that they were fully responsible for what came out of their voice or what came out of their apparatus, not realizing that when you get out of your way and you will become a conduit, that's when it comes through you. So you're only partially responsible for what you're doing. And I just wanted you to talk about how you've learned the best you have over time to channel information to come through you.
Wow. Well, yeah. I mean, you know, I'm still learning.
Absolutely.
It's.
But you're getting there, man, because I could see it. I could feel it, man. I'm just saying, like, what in your mind, in your little, you know, in your little world of creation? I mean, what have you? What are the antecedents as a band or as a group in order to collectively channel? I don't need a defend. There's no right or wrong answer, you know.
Yeah, no, that's a good question, and I think there are some ingredients that help that, and I think one of them is that it really helps to have a sense of like reverence, for lack of a better term, reverence for the music itself.
Sure.
Like,
absolutely.
If one is aware that music can create worlds, I mean, literal sonic worlds that create reactions in people, then that ought to be somewhat humbling, and that ought to point you in a direction of saying, oh, there is more going on here than just, my hope of getting laid because I look cool with my guitar.
Yeah, I did. Totally.
Which is totally cool too. it's totally cool.
Nothing wrong with it. Yeah, totally.
Do, but I mean that. So, like, the other thing is that playing with a certain type of person that you have a type of relationship with, where there's it's like I don't think that I've ever been able to get to a place where I feel connected, to the whatever, the download, when I'm playing music that I think is BS. And that just might be me, but my point more than anything is that the material, it's like playing Grateful Dead music, which is itself like architecturally already like designed for that kind of thing,
right?
With others that get that and that know how to, cultivate that ground. Well, then it might not be as difficult to get in a position where you can open yourself up. But if you're playing music where there's no conception of that and everything is like, mundane, for lack of a better term, it's going to be really hard to have any type of transcendent experience in my experience.
Well, no, you have to be inspired yourself if you're going to transmit that. I mean, I guess, in the past, when in quote unquote normal times, did you wind up subjecting yourself to situations that would?
Oh yeah,
really? Just to pay, just because they were just because maybe they were good paying gigs.
I mean, look, that's part of it. But
there's nothing wrong with that.
No, I mean it's just part of the journey. As for me, like a young musician, moving to a big city, it took me quite a while to find my way, and partly because I was still discovering what was true for me and what was important for me. So, there's plenty of places and different flavors to get into, and I had to get into enough of them to know which ones I didn't want.
Totally.
And because if you don't know any better, it's like, well, shit, I got a gig, great.
Yeah, that's it, man.
Yeah. So,
how did you? So, can you talk about how you met? How did you connect with? In your mind, what was the first authentic community when you moved to the big city, where you were like, "Wow, this maybe I'm only getting a little. Maybe the pay's not that great, but this feels so right."
Well, yeah, I mean, it kind of happened in a couple different, like in different degrees, like, because up until, I was, well, through college, actually, I was a basketball player. I mean, I played music, and music is, I've played music since my earliest memories, but I was really into basketball. I was fully focused on it.
Are you kidding me? What were you, like a swing player or point guard? What were you doing?
I was mostly shooting guard, but yeah.
Wow.
I played some point as well.
Wow, dude.
Yeah.
Wow.
And don't get me started on the similarities between basketball and.
Well, no, this is only set one, brother. We got plenty of more. No, I'm saying Horn. Nobody knows this. Horn played basketball, D3, I think.
Yep.
Yeah. So you were ensconced in crashing the backboards and hitting 16-footers and playing D. So that was. Go ahead. I didn't mean to cut you off there. Go ahead.
Yeah. So what was my point with that? Oh, well, I was in a world, okay, and that, as much as I loved it, you know, it didn't really suit my personality. I was always sort of, I guess, trying in that world to be this or that. You know, as much as I loved the game, the culture never really felt fully part of it. But anyways, I remember, you know, I started playing in bands, and I was in Santa Barbara at the time, and at one point, like a friend of mine was playing with this young songstress that was on a major label, and they needed some help, so he asked if I wanted to try out. Long story short, I went and I did that, and they hired me, and the first gig that we did was this, like, one of those radio conference things in San Diego, which I don't know if you know what those are like, but it's the weirdest, most bizarre.
What is it? I don't know what that is.
Like, it's like a radio conference where it's all these radio industry people walking around with laminates in a giant conference building.
That is bizarre.
The carpeted.
Oh my God.
And then, like, you have, like, artists, like, play one or two songs on the stage with, like, the PowerPoint, and it's just really weird. But I remember we went to dinner one night with some fellow, you know, musicians that, you know, were some, you know, they were successful in as far as, like, everyone was doing a professional gig, and we were sitting at the table and everyone was drinking, and everyone had this really witty, sardonic attitude. And I just remember sitting there going, like, I don't know any of these people, but I fucking love this. This is my people.
Wow.
You know?
Wow.
And, you know, I didn't stay in touch with almost any of those folks, but I do remember that there was something about the personality and the wit of musicians that I just was like, this is awesome. Everyone's so funny and, like, you know, crass and
unique, you know, like,
so
in their own way. Yeah, I love it.
And unique, yeah. But, you know, and then I would say when I really started to, like, sink into like a scene that I felt like real admiration for was when I don't know if you're familiar with Jonathan Wilson.
No, I don't. I know that.
He's in the scene, and is actually how I met Dan, as we both played in his band. But that scene was, like, such high level of musicianship that it was really, like, for me, like, this is the real learning, you know. And
that is so beautiful, man. Don't even tell me that Josh Adams was on drums.
Oh no, he actually joined after I left. He did play.
So it was Gowan. Who was in the band with Wilson?
Oh, well, there was a few different rosters, but for the majority of the time that I was there, it was Gowan, Dan Horn, myself, Jason Borger, and then Lee Pardini for a minute.
that is.
Do you know
yeah.
Lee Pardini?
Yeah, I know. Jerry Bourget was on piano.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then
he was for the most.
So tell me, I mean, that to me was like, how did you like when you say that just felt? I mean, those guys are all sort of. I don't know. Will I actually now I realize I saw you before. Did you play Neely Casal's tribute concert at the Regent Theater in L.A.?
I did not play. I went to it. Oh wait, did I play?
I think I saw you on stage with Jonathan. I think I have video of you with John. Now I realize I'm like I've seen Omar before. So I mean, because I'd never seen Jonathan play before, but man, that man can really go into the intergalactic. I mean, that was
yeah.
So that sort of fell into place for you, and would you say that that was a springboard towards? Well, I think ultimately, like how did you grow from that experience? You know, in terms of recognizing the kind of music. I mean, that's not bebop. That's not standards. You're not playing rote music. Did that solidify for you the importance of you being part of bands where they weren't just where basically you needed to get off on the music? Did that cement it at that point when you recognized that no longer you could? Because a lot of people. I mean, there's a fine line between a musician and an artist. I mean, a musician will pick up the funk gigs and the disco gigs and the bar mitzvahs just to sing for their supper. They have to do it. It's all good. And then the artist is more like amo, doing things that are going to get them off, and maybe over time, through patronage, they'll make some money too. You know, and I just wonder if that was the beginning of that taste for you.
Well, look, I had been writing my own music for a while. Matter of fact, when I joined Jonathan's band, one of the first things I told him was like, "Hey, I'm here for this. I'm going to commit to this, but I want you to know that my number one priority is my own music, and I'm going to continue to work on it." And in fact, he helped me make my first record.
Wow.
Which came out. I don't even know when now, but it's called Golden Child, and he helped produce that. And so that was that was never a question for me. Like I wasn't out to be just a hired gun, in any way. I did those things because I wanted to work, and also I felt like there was something for me to learn. So I did learn a lot. I learned a lot of things. Both that like I wanted and things that I didn't want. But ultimately, I've always had a desire to do my own music and to have my own projects. I think, maybe this is something that I need to work on, but it happens that I'm a pretty terrible employee. So
would the fruit tree people think that too? I mean, it sounds like you were doing some great work. Would the fruit tree people you were working for during COVID think that? Were you not reliable for them?
Well, no, I think. I mean, honestly, I did great, but but after a couple months, I was like, oh my God, I can't do this.
I can't
anymore.
do it. No, I'm with you, bro. I'm with you.
I don't know. I mean, I definitely try.
It's just something that where you need to be, because it's not about you being in some sort of power grab or control, but there's just sort of like, if when you start to get bored, for me, when I start to get bored, I start thrashing around. You know, I've been out of the mainstream workforce for over a decade now, and I basically had to put together my own thing because it becomes so uninspiring. And I guess that's the thing. My soul transcends who I am as a person. A lot of people, that's not the case. They're driven by other things, and maybe that's what you're about too. Because the soul's not really talked about a lot in our society. It's about wealth and success. So that, and in any way, so I'm not sure how you're supposed to get better at that. It might be something that you're kind of stuck with for a minute.
That's okay. Like, that's okay. I mean, sometimes it can be worrisome, you know, but you know, I'm, you know, I can't. That's just me.
Yeah,
you know?
And you know what? Right now. We're in the moment. There's no sense in projecting out. So I mean, you've made it this far. You're going to keep going. I got one more name that voice for you, brother, and we'll come back.
Cool.
Well, love to me is what makes everything go around. I think that love created the universe. I think that if you say you do not believe in God, you're an atheist or whatever, you know, I respect that. I think we all need to respect how each other feels about things in life. But for you to say that you don't believe in God, and if you have a little daughter or a little son, and you look in their eyes, you can't tell me that you don't believe in love. Mm-hmm. And to me, God is love. So I don't think I need to go any further with that as far as that's concerned. And I also believe that and especially at this time in the world, what's going on out there in the world, it's just insane. And we need to hold on to love. We need to hold on to what love is. We need to realize that there's a heavy struggle going on in the world, and I don't think any of us really understand. We don't understand it like we should. But I know one thing for sure, that this world needs love. It always did. Jackie DeShannon said it.
All right, Omar. Do you know who that is?
I don't, but it makes me think of that, one of my favorite songs of all time, that Stevie Wonder, Love's in Need of Love.
That was my
beautiful man, whoever that is.
Well, that man is a dear friend of mine. His name is Jim Keltner.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and so Jim and I mean, but what I'm saying is, Omar, like, I am just a sports broadcaster turned, like, you know, I was like, nobody's really doing interviews with the passion of sports with musicians. I can say this now after 10 years. And so I took that energy and moved it into the spiritual side, realizing that actually I lost sports because of it got too corporate and lost a lot of the spirit, and nobody stayed with the same team. So anyway, I mean, the idea is this, like, that was my first interview with Keltner from, I don't know, 8 years ago. We talk all the time.
Wow.
And like, I've become friends with my elders and respected by my elders. But, you know, then I'm in the green room and I hear Austin Beatty talking about that without you, he would never have known anybody in Grateful Shred. And so I was like, that's love. You know, love is doing stuff without any, in my mind, it's doing stuff for pure intention only and expecting nothing in return. And, you know, that's just part of it. But when I heard that, and that's why I love Grateful Shred, because everybody has love in their heart and in their soul.
Yes.
And I just wanted you to talk about your concept of love and ultimately the most important, and how you bring love to the world.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah, it's only set one, Omar. Right?
What's that?
Listen. I've done 6 or 7 hours with Keltner. We're only in set one right now. You know.
Okay. All right. Let's go. Let's do this.
Yeah,
all
man.
Right.
Yeah, no, we'll finish strong here.
Well,
I mean, tell me what. I mean, again, we're all still learning. It's just our society projects out what they say they think love is, and it's not. And so I'm just trying to get at what you believe are the tenets of it. To me, it's like no matter where Austin was in his life or his career at that time, the idea I had no idea. He's like, without Omar, I know you guys go way back, but he's like, without Omar, I never would have known these guys. But now because he does, it gave him a gig with a freaking awesome band. I mean, that's love, man.
Well, listen, the reason why Austin has the gig, and maybe this is exactly to the point of love, is that Austin was in my band, and we did a residency in LA. And for which he asked for nothing in return. Okay, I didn't have money to pay him. Wow. The residencies were free, so he did it out of love for me and my music. Wow. And I think that's one thing that seems to be true about something like love, is that when you do things out of love, there's a sequence of events that gets kicked off in a myriad of directions that we are not aware of. That basically it's a generative act that doesn't come from a calculation. So, like, if I do something out of love, I may not know what will come from it, but it creates a chain reaction in the direction of something generative in the world.
Totally, dude. I mean, it's unquantifiable and it's unknown.
The other thing I will say is that, like, you know, I have a 2.5-year-old daughter, and you know, I've experienced love over these last 2.5 years of a completely different type that I could ever have imagined. And by that I don't mean like different to other love that I felt, but just, you know, more dimensional and heightened and deeper, and, you know, all these things. And God, it's hard to talk about this because it's like not like a recipe, you know. It's not like, well, if you just apply the right amount of love, then things will work out for you.
That's
you know,
right. That's right.
It's like love is just a natural expression, you know. It's like things growing and things evolving and things progressing. And, like, you know, when I look back at my own life and, you know, the decisions, you know, the decisions that I seemingly made, especially the ones that came from a place of wanting to do something for the love of it, that is what ends up, writing the history of my life. And so, like, in that sense, like, it's the generative force of the universe, and I do believe that the more we come from that place in our action and our intention, the more things, it's like the more nutrient rich your garden is going to be, and the more varied and beautiful the harvest, because it sets into motion things that you could never have conceived from a mind that is concerned with, like some kind of, analysis that comes from something that's not love. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I mean, you're talking about there's no preconception or, thought going. I mean, to me, unconditional love is, I mean, it can be a very lonely avenue sometimes, but then the harvest comes in and it's just like, it's so bountiful, and and it's growing in all different forms and shapes and sizes. And it's really the reason I ask you that stuff is just because, I feel like that is the biggest issue and crisis in our society now, is this callousness that's enveloping society on a whole level. People that can barely get by, barely enough to get by, and now they're resentful of the people that are in tent cities and all these major urban centers. And it's all about greed and it's about monetization and commodifying and I have no problem with people making a good living, but I'm just saying that what I've been doing is a test case in trying to break open people's hearts. And I can honestly say that like my kids changed my life forever. I mean, they broke my heart open. And as what's so crazy is like, as they get older, they know you so well. That DNA is so in there that they can look at you and you could say stuff and they know when you're full of shit. They know when you're being authentic. They can read you, and then they ultimately become your teachers. And it's like, to me, they allowed me to dream again. They allowed me to say, no, I don't need to take some job, some monotonous thing, and just sort of walk down this path of life and kill my soul. No, my soul must transcend at all costs, even if I don't even know why I'm doing it. That to me, and then to connect with the people that are doing that as well. And then when you find that group, it's like, and the musicians, whether it's Jim Keltner or you or John McLaughlin, and you realize when they meet you halfway and they start talking about things that they've never talked about before, and then you realize that those are the cats. This is humanity, and this is love. And I just feel like at this time that we're living through history right now, and I just feel like no matter what, to continue that you more than this is your interview, but I encourage you, even through the brain fog, to continue to stay this course, because you're on the path, and it's. Music has cumulative results, and I think that, no matter what, you have to stay true to your source. You have to stay true to your true nature, and no matter what. And believe me, if you're inspired, you're going to be able to inspire your kids. and I can just see it happening right now. It's just, it's not easy, but it's the righteous path, Omar. And so
Yeah.
I just want you to, I just want you to get back up to physical shape, good physical shape. And do you have anything on the calendar? I know it's kind of, I don't want to sound selfish, okay, but do you have any gigs coming up on the horizon at all? I mean, I'd just love to see you in any amalgamation.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, well, there were some other Grateful Shred shows. I'm not sure what the latest is with that.
Yeah, that's down the road that's a minute. That's in a minute. Yeah.
Yeah. Almo has a couple of things in late September. That would be the earliest thing. But yeah, we'll have to see, how things progress, and yeah, like yeah, I think that I don't know why I feel compelled to say this, but maybe others can relate to it. I've noticed that, like, I'm not like a avid meditator, but I've been feeling like very, very called to do some kind of meditation practice, because I feel like with the, with the barrage of information that is like a fire hose,
Yes.
like constantly pointed at our brains, with phones and the like. And I'm like most people, I'm really susceptible to the technology. It takes a hold of me, and I have a hard time extricating myself. So what I'm saying is that in order to, listen to my soul and live out of love, I need to like create enough space to even hear it, which is being besieged by the constant barrage of information. And I find myself right now in a place where I'm like, okay, if I'm not careful, I'm going to drown in this shit,
I can't believe you said that. Because that's exactly the exact feeling that I had. And yesterday I've been doing it for a minute. I'm not somebody who's very good at sedentary meditation, like being able to sit.
Yeah.
Okay. But, I received the Tao maybe 8 years ago, and I'm still very connected to it. And it was my first spiritual transmission. And my teacher, Arthur, he taught me Tai Chi, and and that is, yesterday I went down, I had the exact same feeling that you had. I said, I am totally sucked into this stuff, and I'm feeling so low energetically and spiritually, and I need to clear myself out. And I did maybe 15 minutes of Tai Chi, and it just took my vibration up a lot. And now that you said that again, I have to go home and do it again. I think that you have to find a way, if you're not comfortable in a sedentary way, some sort of physical manifestation of stillness and or mindfulness that can bring you peacefulness and serenity without these devices, because it is really cramping it us up,
Yes, it's a thing, man.
It's real. It's real.
It's real.
Yeah.
It really is. Yeah.
All right, man. Listen, we'll let's jump. Let's do set 2 down the road, man. I must say, I know it didn't end great in terms of the fallout and in terms of people getting sick from coronavirus. I want you to let you know, like, with you guys, the power of that band is the unquantifiable nature of all the people that walk out of those shows, myself included, that, maybe they don't have a meditative practice, but for a few days or a week, based on the jubilation and the rhythm, rhythm is love, and that heals people. And so, and that will protect you. So, thank you for that. And let's just keep the show on the road, man, as best we can. And we'll do it again. Much love to you, brother.
Thanks a lot, man. Appreciate it. Well, it was a pleasure.
All right. Be cool. We'll do it again later on.
Yeah. Cheers, man.
Peace.
Bye.
Yeah. Omar Velasco, legendary musician and just a real heavy hang. Thanks for tuning into the Jake Feinberg Show. We'll be back later in the week. Until then, peace.